Hi, welcome to Defining Moments. I'm Suzanne Quast, and I am really excited about today's episode. And I want to start first with a quote, and that is, "Rich, being able to afford all the things and experiences required to fully experience your most authentic life." That was said by author Jen Sincero of You're a Badass and You're a Badass with Money. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who are like me and you want to change your paradigm around money, your money relationship, you want to manifest more abundance in your life, and you want to live a purposeful life while making more money. And I want to absorb as much information about this as possible because I see a whole group of people over here who are living an abundant life. They have abundant lifestyles, abundant mindsets, and abundant bank accounts. They are in a surplus. But how do we get there? And I knew I had to bring in someone amazing to have this conversation with me, which is why I brought in my dear friend, Lovegrove. He is America's life coach. He takes celebrities, entrepreneurs, and world leaders to the next level. And today he's going to talk to us about what our relationship is with money and abundance, the energetic flow of money, money mindset, and give us nuggets of practical information and steps that we can take to shift our money paradigm. And he's also going to throw in there how struggle is not required. Here are his moments. So excited to see you.
That was such a good intro.
Oh, thank you.
Suzanne, thank you. And I'm very excited to be here. As I told you a moment ago, I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize to anyone listening and watching if there's any sniffles today. But there's truly no one I'd rather be on this couch with than you. And what a good topic that I love to discuss, as you know.
And his sniffles are not because he's sad.
They could be, right? But we don't know. It may be too soon to call it.
Well, I want to start with, for our audience who's not familiar with you, you had a defining moment in your life where you realized you needed to make some serious shifts around money, the conversations you were having, and just the whole money situation. And I think this is really relatable to anybody who's starting a new business or even just feeling financially frustrated. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the things I like to share, because I think it's unique about my own journey with money, is that I do not remember money struggle from my childhood. If it was there, it was hidden, it wasn't talked about, and credit to my parents that they didn't have us live in that reality, even if it was present. And so I didn't actually grow up having that experience. But then a few years back, I was starting out my business, trying to get, some momentum going in my coaching business. And I knew that I was a good coach from session one that I'd ever done. I'd gotten people breakthroughs and great results, but something wasn't flowing in the business. And for the first time in my life, I was really under a lot of money stress and anxiety. And there was this really dark moment where I was working, I think, a couple of part-time jobs at the time, and I came home one Saturday night, and there was an eviction notice on the door. Oh. And, I have this grand vision of I'm going to share my message and live my purpose and change the world. And I get home, and there's an eviction notice on the door. And I remember I just sat in the living room floor in the dark and cried. Mm-hmm. And I said, I just don't know what to do because it's never been this bad, and I don't know the way out. But yeah, it was a defining moment of we can't go on like this, and also it's not supposed to be like this, you know?
It's not supposed to be like this, and I feel like there's so many people out there who feel that way. It's not supposed to feel this way. I have a greater purpose. I have a greater message. Then what did you do to actually make a shift? What was the beginning steps for you?
Well, and let me say this about it's not supposed to be like this. I do think there's competing paradigms for our attention and belief, right? Okay, so I remember when I was in high school, a friend of mine's parent told me, nobody likes what they do at their 9 to 5. And that's why we call it work. And you just have to go anyway. And so I want to acknowledge some of us have a feeling maybe it doesn't have to be like this, but I think it's important to address. We also have all these paradigms that some of us have heard for decades saying maybe it is supposed to be hard. Maybe work is supposed to suck. Maybe, money doesn't grow on trees. Like these paradigms are all in our brain. So we have to decide, what is it going to be for us? And I think for me, at this point, I had figured out something is energetically off because I felt like I was working my ass off and the money wasn't showing up. And so I think the first big shift I had to make is figuring out that more hustle was not necessarily the answer. And, you know, you and I were talking about this the other day, that if only the equation was as simple as hard work equals lots of money, that would be so simple. But yet what we all know is there's people who have lots of money and don't work hard. There's people who work hard and don't have money. So that's not the equation. And so I had to move into an understanding of, we're going to have to look at something energetically, because it's clearly not a lack of hard work. I felt like I never worked harder, and yet here we were.
So then what was the energetic shift for you?
Well, ultimately what came to the surface for me is what the author Victor Bach calls an addiction to money, which I think was really the dynamic running the show for me. And basically what he describes is, if you have a need or an attachment or like a compulsive addiction, really, that you have to have this thing, and there's all this pressure, and it has all this meaning for you, and who would you be without it, and all of that is the most repellent force in the entire universe. And so it pushes whatever you want away from you. So I love dating analogies in the money conversation. We all know somebody who's a little too needy for love, shall we say.
We've probably all dated that person.
Or been that person at some point in our journey. And what we all know from being that person, dating that person, ghosting that person, whatever the case may be, is needy energy is repelling, and it pushes money away from us. And yet a lot of the people who are most struggling with money, that's exactly their issue, is they're in a needy energy with money, and they don't realize it's pushing what they want away.
I love that. But then how, like, what are some practical things that somebody can do to actually then get their energy around money right?
Well, I think there's practical and energetic things, and for me, they always go together. Practically, I'm always going to take a stand for the best thing you can do is be generous, because inherently when you give, and you can give wherever. I always like to use the example. I have a client, and the organization that she chooses to give to saves endangered tree frog species. That is a charity I would never have known existed, much less thought to give to. But, you know, there's infinite ways to be generous and infinite places to give. When we give, we send a message to the universe that I know there's more money on the way. And the inherent core belief of lack is there's not more where this came from, right? So people who don't believe money is a renewable resource are always scared to let go of it, because what if more doesn't flow back to them?
100%. I mean, I know there's people watching who are like, I have kids. I have to put my kids through school. Or I just started this business. How can I possibly, but you're saying it doesn't have to be a lot. Like it's, when we talked on the phone, you said it could be literally 1% of everything you make if you're comfortable with that.
So I do an entire teaching on generosity in one of my programs. And I literally invite people to pick an organization that they feel good about, and then to pick a percentage. And it literally can be 0.5%, 1%, 2% to start. But I encourage people to pick a percentage, and you make it your non-negotiable commitment that every time money comes in, you're going to give, even if it's 0.5% or 1% away. You're training yourself that when money comes in, I don't have to hold on to it like there might not be more, or this might not last, or this might not be enough. But you're training yourself, there's going to be more on the way, and I have more than enough. And it's a powerful thing. So practically, that's my number one tip of clearing the needy energy. Energetically, I think there's all kinds of areas in our lives where we're looking for something externally that we're only going to be able to give to ourselves. And so there's no easy, quick fix for that, other than you got to sit with yourself, and you've got to find the love, the happiness, the peace, whatever it is inside. And that doesn't often feel as sexy and glamorous as self-help books would like us to believe it is.
And something else you had said prior was maybe journal, like when a money thing comes up. Like what is your initial reaction to that? How do you feel about that? And maybe then you can explore to then understand energetically, even really where to begin.
Well, and I was telling you this the other day. I think a lot of people, when it comes to this discussion of mindset, for example, feel like they don't even know what their mindset is. And I always want people to realize it's pretty easy to figure out, or it's easier than you would think. So let's say that a bill comes in the mail and it freaks you out, it's unexpected, it triggers you. If you want to know where your thoughts and feelings and relationship to money is at, all you have to do, pull open a journal or pull open like a Evernote file on your laptop and just start writing out what is showing up for you. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you, what's going on inside of you and what's going on in your brain? And it's as simple as that to begin figuring out where you currently stand in your relationship with money.
Another thing that somebody had said, which is a paradigm, is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behaviors. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. So what you were saying is you didn't necessarily as a child have money issues, right? And that's a beautiful thing. But some people do. And let's really oversimplify this. Let's say your parents fought about money. Money equals fighting equals bad. So in addition to energetically, then perhaps what this journaling and figuring out is also then maybe figuring out your ancestral background as well. Do you think that could be helpful?
Absolutely. I think wherever your stories about money have come from, you're going to have to go through them. I just like to acknowledge for people, not all of those stories necessarily came from childhood, right? Something I found is a lot of the stories have come from religion and spirituality. If we want to talk about paradigms, I think two really big paradigms that hold people back. There's a paradigm of being like the broke healer or like the person doing the ministry needs to be living a life of poverty. That's a huge paradigm. Outside of that world, there's a paradigm of a starving artist. And I think we even see in LA, I hear people joke about it, right? Like, well, make my art, gotta scrounge around for a meal today. Like as if the starving artist thing is what you should just expect if you're going to be a creative individual. And so the point is, there's all sorts of paradigms. It doesn't matter where the story comes from. You need to look at it. And don't think that in my journey of moving through this, I didn't look at my childhood. It just ended up not being the biggest source of them for me.
Got it. So we've identified that, right? For you, there was the energy around it that you shifted. And then you said you've developed a money program that worked for you. What is the money program?
Well, I want to say one of the things I had to commit to doing was working on money every single day, right?
Ooh, okay.
And
how do you
so
do
that was a very intimidating thing for me when I was in complete avoidance about it. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who watch who like, this is the moment you want to turn it off because you're like, well, I'm absolutely not doing that. And I think baby steps are really required, right? I love the analogy of like the people that live next to each other in the romantic comedy and they hate each other. And then one day they get stuck in the elevator and they have to face one another because they're stuck there for 5 hours. Some of us need to have that come to Jesus moment with money where we just face it. And I'm talking to people who haven't looked at their account in months. I'm talking to people who all the mail is stacked up unopened because you don't want to see how much you owe. I'm talking to people who don't want to look at the debt. I had a client one time enter my program. This is the kind of stuff that screws us over, right? She started working with me. I think it was a one-on-one client. And she said to me, Stefan, I don't know why I can't get people to pay me. And I said, okay, well, we're going to figure out, right?
Yep.
And what people often don't realize is that your business is a mirror back to you, which is why business is such a powerful tool for personal growth, but can also be a pain.
And also be really uncomfortable.
Really uncomfortable to sit with. And so we were trying to explore, why would people not be paying her? And it comes out in the conversation, well, for 15 months, she has made 0 payments on debt, loans, or credit cards, has avoided all statements, blocked all phone calls, and let all accounts default. And I said, this is incongruent. You're asking why people wouldn't pay you, keep their agreements, pay on time, and yet look what you are doing. And this is where we got to remember the principle that we don't attract what we want, we create what we are. And so this was her dynamic. And so of course that's what was being created. So I committed to, first and foremost, I have to look at everything, even before I do it daily, I just have to look at everything like at all.
Yeah, let's start there.
I have to figure out what my expenses are. I have to figure out what debt is there. I have to figure out how much money is coming in and track it all. And that initial sit down was really difficult to make myself do. Then once I had that, I had to commit to, I'm going to keep looking at the numbers. I'm going to keep looking at my goals, and I'm going to keep affirming the new money story for myself. And, consistency is so powerful. We were talking the other day about the compound effect says if you get 1% better every day, you will be 37 times better by the end of the year. And I just want to encourage somebody today. You may feel like I have such a bad relationship with money that how could I ever see a change in any short amount of time? Well, just think about what if you committed to doing something to work on your relationship with money every day. 37 times better by the end of the year, that is what I would consider a quantum leap.
100%. So then things that are better is journaling, that like we talked about, reading books about money, maybe giving away money, like not just giving away what we were talking about earlier, giving a percentage away, those types of things you're saying to do every day.
Right. So I think it's working with the energetic forces. We want to increase the energetic pool of money towards us. And we want to decrease the needy energy that keeps it away, right? I also think money, like any relationship, you have to work on it, right? And you have a wonderful relationship now, but you didn't get there by an unwillingness to sit in it or work through it or work in it, right?
Yep.
Anything we value, we have to work for as a relationship because energy is always in motion. It doesn't just freeze in place and is locked there, locked in place for the next 25 years. It's either going to be growing or it's going to be declining. So, I mean, this is something I do every single day. Before I came to this interview, I did my morning routine. One of the things I do in my morning routine is I'm going to look at my key numbers. I'm going to see where we're at. I look at my numbers daily. I look at our team and company metrics at least once a week, and I want to know where we're at. And then I practice my giving. I take the money that's come in, all of it's being tracked. I give based on what's come in, and then I affirm my money story. And I'm doing this years later, still every single day, because I believe that that there's power in the consistency, and that if I care about this relationship in my life, I'm going to put in the work for it.
And then also then with, the energetic stuff, do you also then believe in the visualization? Because I hear a lot of people talk about that. They're like, visualize it as if it's happening to you, because your body at a cellular level will feel it. And that can then change some of the dynamics you have. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, but I think the distinction is in what you said. The reason you would be visualizing it is to trigger a feeling in your body. So I've used vision boards for years. I still have a digital screensaver on my laptop with images that I constantly want to hold in my awareness. But this is a feelings universe. So, this is basic manifestation 101, but at the core, the universe is not responding to a mental picture at the deepest level. At the core, the universe is responding to your frequency, to your feeling, to your vibration. So this is why I tell my clients, we're going to prioritize your energy above all things, right?
Yep.
Because if your energy is ultimately what's creating your life. So if a specific visualization helps you, amazing. But like I have a playlist that is what the flow sounds like to me. And I will turn it on and I will just enjoy and I'll meditate and I'll dance and I'll just be in it. It doesn't matter if there's a specific image in my mind at that moment. Creating from that place is going to create good things. So I do believe in visualization, but I think people often, again, this is a key manifestation principle. I think people often are hung up on the house, the car, the vacation, the whatever. But even when they think about it, they're not in a place of joy and overflow and abundance. They're in a place of, I don't have that. That's out of reach. And so the feeling is what's winning out, not the fact that the Bugatti's in their mind.
So then what do you think is the difference between the art of manifestation and the law of attraction?
The art of manifestation versus the law of attraction. I think manifestation is a word that I would use to refer to this process of creating our reality that's happening at all times. I think the law of attraction is one law that describes a part of that process. But I think what's tricky is there's more laws and more to the conversation that people don't talk about. I did a free masterclass. It's still online. Anybody can access it, where I teach the 7 reasons you feel like manifesting isn't working for you. And that's one of the things we talk about is, the law of attraction describes a true principle, there's more to the conversation. And so, for example, law of vibration would say, whatever frequency you are, that's what's being matched. So a lot of people are conceiving thinking if I keep this Bugatti on my vision board, it's going to come to me. But actually, if the frequency you're at is lack, all you can experience is lack.
Amen to that. And then speaking of lack, I want to address real quick before we have to wrap this up, but what you talk about, that struggle is not required, because I think that's really interesting. And I want to see if I understand this correctly. You know, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs and they talk about that the sacrifice that it takes to get there, the hard work that it takes to get there, that they're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, but that is a struggle. You're saying struggle maybe just isn't the right word. Struggle, you can replace that word with, say, opportunity.
So I believe in doing the work. I believe in showing up. You know, I like to share a couple of statistics for somebody's encouragement who's at the beginning. The year that my business blew up, I committed to showing up as America's Life Coach minimum 3 times a day on social media, so that by the end of the year, I had shown up 1,000 times in the world as America's Life Coach. Now, I don't know what the count is now. We're probably over 100,000 times at this point with how the content and everything has expanded. But that was a commitment to me to show up and do the work. And you would be shocked. I think a lot of people try it for 5 weeks and quit. You would be shocked what 1,000 times of showing up in an identity will do for you, right? So another statistic I give is I did 38 discovery calls before anybody ever paid me or signed up to work with me. So let me be clear. I believe in doing the work. I believe in consistency in a process. I believe in sticking with it. What I don't believe in is these paradigms of struggle and suffering being required along the way. I believe you can be in the process and in the journey and having a joyful experience along the way. You know, if we say in the new age spiritual world all the time that God is all there is. Well, what does that really mean? What that means is I should be able to go on a first date. I should be able to take a sales call. I should be able to do my morning walk with the dog or whatever it is and have an experience of God, because that can be a divine experience. So that's where I push back on people and say, I don't believe that to get what you want, you have to have struggle and suffering. And actually, that paradigm is so harmful, because what happens when you get what you want, but your belief was that the struggle got you there? That's where people sabotage, because now they have to go create more struggle.
That was me.
So that they can keep it. Because if this is what, like, the end doesn't justify the means creates the end. So if you create it from a place of struggle, you're not going to get there and be like, now we're complete, no more struggle. You're not going to be able to rest and enjoy it, because you're going to be waiting for the more struggle again.
God, that was so me. I spent so long, and that was what my identity was based on, that I didn't even really know that that was the case. But to me, then when I had a lot of pain and hardship, and things were hard. So when I got to the end and I went through the struggle, I felt like I earned it. I felt like, oh, that's my medal. Like, now I've gotten through it. So then what I didn't realize is that I was inadvertently creating more struggle in my life.
Right. Well, and struggle, sacrifice, suffering. Those are the 3 S's that I talk about all the time. Many of us, and I'll throw this out there for somebody to journal with if it resonates with them. Some of us have those things linked in our mind with success. So if struggle, sacrifice, or suffering are linked in your mind to success, that's a place to undo that link. And then the other thing is, for a lot of people, struggle, suffering, and sacrifice are linked to love. And I have a lot of clients where, with their teams, with their partners, with their kids and their families, they believe that the loving thing to do is, I'm going to struggle. And honestly, this could open up a whole nother conversation, but where a lot of it comes from is, many of us are in a religious paradigm that said, if somebody was sacrificed, you get to X, Y, Z. And the truth is, this is why I love the whole message of A Course in Miracles, which is the resurrection is the power, and like, nobody needs to be on a cross. And so whether or not you relate to anything about Christianity, take the principle that you are here to rise. You are not here to be on a cross.
What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given in regards to money?
That's a good question. I think, so there's one sentence that I read that I literally would say to myself again and again and again and again and again. And it's about the idea of flow. And that's, I think what I'm most passionate about people experiencing is knowing that they can get in the flow of money, and regardless of whether or not they're an entrepreneur, regardless of what's happening in the world economy, regardless of what's happening in their business, knowing that they can be in that flow. And so the sentence I read was, once you are in the flow of money, money must flow to you, period. The laws of physics guarantee it. And that is what I really sank into, and what I've been on a journey with is, how do you know that you're in the flow, and how do you stay in it? Because if you know that, there's just such a peace. And like even this year, I have people ask me, well, so-and-so entrepreneur told me I need to be worried about a recession. And I'm over here like, listen, through whatever economic conditions, through whatever business changes, through whatever personal life events, I know that I'm in the flow with money, so it continues to come in. And that's, I think sitting with that idea, that's a powerful place to be.
Amazing. 2 more questions. What are your keys to success?
What are my keys to success?
Yes.
Suzanne, what a big question.
I know.
I think the ultimate thing for me is always going to be, everything is created from the inside out. If you don't create it that way and you just manufacture something on the outside, it's not going to last, or it's not going to feel good. And so anything that lasts has to be created from within. The Course in Miracles quote is, you can't have what you're not willing to become. And so I would always point someone in the direction of, worry less about, why don't I have this result right now, and where is it, and when is it going to get here? And instead shift the conversation to, who am I becoming? Because I think life is this beautiful journey of becoming. And if you can embrace that, that's when you create something, I think, that really lasts.
I don't even know where we go from here. That was beautiful. Thank you. I love your story. I love your inspiration, and thank you. Thank you for being here. You're quite wise, my friend.
Thank you for a great conversation.
And if you guys like this video, please feel free to share. This was really valuable to me, and I hope it's valuable to you.